Hey guys, welcome back to Walk and Study. Today we will be going over some common TOEFL vocabulary. This video is great for anyone studying for the TOEFL or anyone who wants to learn some common and important English vocabulary. As we work through these words, we will be walking through Home Depot in Glendale, Colorado. Home Depot is a home improvement store that sells everything you need for working on your house. Okay, let's get started. Our first word is predict. Predict is a verb, and it means to say a particular or specific thing will happen in the future. To use predict in a sentence, we could say, Lucy predicted that this winter will be colder than previous winters. So Lucy said or guessed that this upcoming winter will be colder than previous winters. We could also say, many economists predict that economic growth will speed up in 2021. So many economists are saying that in 2021, which is in the future when this video is made, that economic growth will speed up. We could also say, the witch predicted that the little girl would grow up to be queen. So the witch said that in the future, after the little girl grows up, she will become queen. Our next word is indicate. Indicate is a verb, and it means to point out or to show. Using indicate in a sentence, we could say, Alfonso's tone of voice indicated that he was angry. So Alfonso's tone of voice showed that he was angry. We could also say, the dark clouds and rising wind indicated that it would soon rain. So the dark clouds and increasing winds were a sign of or showed that it would soon start raining. Our next word is establish. Establish is a verb, and it means to build or to create or set up, and it's used in the context of systems, organizations, or ideas, and not used for real physical things. Using establish in a sentence, we could say, Vern and Mary established their bakery in 1995. So Vern and Mary set up or created their bakery business in 1995. We could also say, my mother established a new set of rules in the house requiring all the kids to be in bed by 9 p.m. So my mother created a new set of rules that required all the kids in the family to be in bed by 9 p.m. Our next word is contrast. Contrast can be used as a verb and a noun, and as a verb, contrast has two meanings that are important for the TOEFL exam. First, let's look at contrast as a noun. When used as a noun, contrast means the differences between things when they are compared or put close together. So if you are looking at two things, the things that are different between the two are the contrasts. Using contrast as a noun in a sentence, we could say, when Allison arrived in Madrid, the weather was hot and sunny, in contrast to the cold, damp weather in London. So when Allison arrived in Madrid, the hot and sunny weather was very different than, or in contrast to, the cold, damp weather in London. We could also say, the contrasts between comic books and novels are quite obvious. So the differences between comic books and novels are quite obvious when the two are compared. Okay, now let's look at contrast when used as a verb. The first definition of contrast when used as a verb is to be clearly different from something else. When using contrast as a verb with this definition, we could say, the zebra's black and white stripes contrast with the yellows and brown of its habitat. So the zebra's black and white stripes are clearly different from the yellow and brown colors of the grasslands where they live. We could also say, Robert's young age contrasted with his wise thoughts. So Robert's young age was noticeably different from his knowledgeable and mature thoughts. Okay, now let's look at the second definition of contrast when it's used as a verb. The second definition is to look specifically at the differences between things. When using contrast with this definition, we could say, by contrasting the Ottoman Empire and Roman Empire, the historian hoped to gain a better understanding of how empires function. So by looking for the specific differences between the Ottoman and Roman empires, the historian hoped to understand how empires work or operate. We could also say, when Mary contrasted living in Prague versus living in Mexico City, she decided her preference was Mexico City. So when Mary looked at the specific differences between living in Prague versus living in Mexico City, she decided she would rather live in Mexico City. Our next word is significant. Significant is an adjective, and it means something that is important enough or big enough that you should pay attention to it. Using significant in a sentence, we could say, Elizabeth thought it was significant that her son had a very high fever, so she decided to call the doctor. So Elizabeth thought that her son's high fever was something important enough for her to pay close attention to, and she thought it was so important that she would call the doctor. We could also say, the most significant thing most people buy is a house. So the thing that people buy that is the most important, and therefore the thing people pay the most attention to, is a house. Our next word is theory. Theory is a noun, and it means an idea or belief about how or why something works. Using theory in a sentence, we could say, many observers developed theories about why Magnus was so gifted at chess. So many observers developed ideas or beliefs about why Magnus was such a great chess player. We could also say, Newton developed a theory of gravity. So Newton developed an idea about how and why gravity works. Our next word is accurate. Accurate is an adjective, and it means correct or exact in all details or on target. Using accurate in a sentence, we could say, when Mrs. Antonopoulos called on Andrew in class, he gave an accurate answer. So when Mrs. Antonopoulos called on Andrew in class, he gave her the correct answer. We could also say, Letitia is an accurate archer. So Letitia is an archer, or a person who shoots with bows and arrows, who is always or very often on target. Our next word is substitute. Substitute can be used as both a noun and a verb. When used as a noun, substitute means something that goes in the place of the usual thing. Using substitute as a noun in a sentence, we can say, in the 55th minute of the football match, Mohamed Salah came on as a substitute. So in the 55th minute of the football match, Mohamed Salah came into the game in place of the player who was on the field before him. We could also say, when my father was baking brownies, he used brown sugar as a substitute for white sugar. So when my father was baking brownies, he used brown sugar in place of the usual thing, which is white sugar. Substitute can also be used as a verb. When used as a verb, substitute means to take out and put something else in its place. Actually, we can change one of our previous sentences a little and use substitute as a verb instead of a noun. So we could say, in the 55th minute of the football match, Sadio Mane was substituted for Mohamed Salah. So in the 55th minute of the football match, Sadio Mane was taken out of the game and Mohamed Salah was put in his place. We could also say, to make the baklava healthier, I substituted the sugar for honey. So to make baklava healthier, I took out the sugar and put honey in its place. Our next word is brief. Brief is an adjective, and it means taking a short amount of time. Using brief in a sentence, we could say, Rahim was happy that his meeting with his boss ended up being very brief. So Rahim was happy that his meeting with his boss took a short amount of time. We could also say, my Uncle Jim gave a brief speech at my sister's wedding. So my Uncle Jim gave a quick speech at my sister's wedding. Our next word is analyze. Analyze is a verb, and it means to look at or assess something very closely so you can better understand it. Using analyze in a sentence, we could say, Nike is famous for closely analyzing its competitors. So Nike is famous for closely assessing or looking at its competitors so Nike can better understand what they are doing. We could also say, before investing, Lauren always carefully analyzes each business. So before investing in a business, Lauren always assesses them very closely so she can better understand them. Our next word is data. Data is a noun, and it means information or facts. Using data in a sentence, we could say, the software engineer collected and analyzed all the data before she made a change to the app. So the software engineer collected and closely assessed the information and facts before she changed the app. We could also say, every year, the climate scientist visited the Arctic Circle to collect more data on the weather. So every year, the climate scientist visited the Arctic Circle to collect more information on the weather. Our next word is function. Function can be used as both a verb and a noun. When used as a verb, function means to work or operate in the correct or particular way. Using function as a verb in a sentence, we could say, after testing it 3 times, the engineer determined that the rocket was functioning. So after testing the rocket 3 times, the engineer decided that it was operating in the correct way. We could also say, my brain never functions on Monday mornings. So my brain never operates correctly on Monday mornings. When used as a noun, function means what something does or its purpose. Using function as a noun in a sentence, we could say, Walk and Study's function is to help people learn English. So Walk and Study's purpose is to help people learn English. We could also say, Lucinda could not figure out all the computer's functions. So Lucinda could not figure out all the things the computer can do. With that, we've gone over some common and very important TOEFL vocabulary. I hope this lesson was helpful to you all. As always, subscribe below, give us a like if you found this video useful, and let us know in the comments section what else you'd like to learn about or see in our next Walk and Study lesson. Thanks guys, take care.